Hey, thank you for listening to the podcast. Before it starts, I just wanted to let you know that there's about 2 minutes on two different sections of the episode where the audio is a bit choppish. Kindly bear with us as we learn and stick through those few moments. Thank you. Love and light.
Hey, fellow impactors. Welcome to the podcast that gives you a glimpse into how a little collision can impact us into motion. This is Stories of Impact with Shaa Ciku, that's me, also known as Shaa Ciku. In today's episode, we'll sit down with a fellow impactor. She's a leader, a friend, a sister. She is a creator. She's an award-winning producer amongst many, many other amazing things. You may know her for some of the shows she's done, like Real Housewives of Nairobi, This Love, Soul Family, and so much more. You can find her on Instagram at Lucky Carolina. And I'd like us to all welcome, so scream in your rooms, Caroline Ngunjiri. Welcome to our community of impactors. So before we start with the questions, let me give them a little bit of background as to why you're here, because everybody here has impacted me in one way or another.
Okay.
So Caroline is here because she's impacted me. I first met Carol in 2020. She was shooting at a family member's house, and at that point, my interest in film and TV production had just peaked. And I was like, look at this lady in running this show amongst all these men. I was like, wow. So we got to talking and chatting and just hearing her story and hearing the shift in her career and how she was thrown into production. I guess that's how I would put it. I don't know if you'd put it like that.
Yeah.
And how she's just taken it with in stride and just done amazing things since then, and now is the head of production at the company she works at. So after talking to her, I was like, wow, this woman is absolutely remarkable. From how, and then leave alone that talking to her, I started working for her the next year, and she runs this place with such a gentleness and a youthfulness and confidence, and she's really able to hold her own even in a space that honestly I think it was created for you, but then I feel like a lot of these spaces are very male dominated. Although I feel like you're exactly where you need to be in this life. The spaces are not, they're created for us, but they don't really want us there. You know what I mean? And I feel like you did in such a great way. So to my former boss and powerhouse, Caroline, tell us your story. We can start with the shift of your career and how you ended up in production.
Okay. I would have to go like way, way back.
Okay.
When I finished high school, I knew I was going to go into aviation because my dad had introduced me to aviation, and I fell in love with it, and I was like, I want to be a pilot. So I finished, I was 17. I started pursuing my private pilot license at Standards Aviation in Wilson Airport. And I had garnered around 26, 27 hours. I was just about to take my private pilot license exam, and our results for KCC had come out. I had passed, and my dad is like, you're so young, you need to experience life, so you have to go to campus. You've been called to a government school. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm in love with aviation. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So we quarreled a bit, and eventually I went to campus all the way in Kisumu, in Maseno. First of all, I had never been to that side of the country. I had no friends on that side. I had never heard of this university. And I had just been called to pursue international relations and diplomacy with IT. And I took it in stride, but my first year was my hardest because I didn't want to be in school there. I still wanted to be in aviation. And I would constantly fly back to Nairobi almost every weekend just to see my folks and sort of feel like I'm still at home.
Yeah.
And eventually one day my mom told me, Carol, your certificate is going to be written your name, not my name or not your dad's name. You should try and make something out of it. So then, that was a wake-up call for me. So took my studies a bit more seriously, started taking up a lot of co-curricular activities. So over the weekends, I would look for opportunities to work with different organizations in Kisumu. And that's how, in one or another, made my way to where I am today. So I worked with IMAX in Kisumu for a short while. I'd volunteer over the weekend to sort of help them bring to life their marketing ideas. And I met Mr. Mwaniki Magere. At that time, he was, or still is, one of the directors at Young Rich TV. So I helped him put together an event. It was successful. And at the end, he just commented on how professional I was in assisting them in the event for someone who was young. I think, 18, 19. And he asked me what are my ambitions, and I just told him, hey, honestly, right now I don't know, because I still plan to go back to aviation, but I'll keep your number and see if we can connect later. Later on, I graduated. Then my dad was like, no, we can't go take you back to aviation because I don't have the money right now. I'm like, okay, cool. So we have to pivot at this point. I worked for an advertising firm for a few months, and then I just didn't feel like it wasn't a fit for me, so I left. And I reached out to Monique and asked him, hey, is there anything I could sort of learn, or is there any place I could even come and intern? So he sets up an interview for me with Eugene Bogwa, CEO of DNR Studios. And hey, I know nothing about film production, zero. I didn't even know people go to school for film. So I go for this interview. I just Googled who Eugene is, and that's all I know. And the interview was terrible. Okay. Have you ever gone for an interview and you just know, I'm not going to get that job? The only thing Eugene and I connected on in that interview was our love for aviation. So when I left that office, I was like, you know what, it's okay. Even if I didn't get that job, it's fine. At least I met a fellow aviation fanatic like me. But between the time I graduated and that time, I really prayed about finding a job that makes my voice a tool to be resourceful. Like I wanted to stay true to my why. Why am I looking for a job? Is because I genuinely feel like I would be resourceful in anything that I do. It didn't matter what industry I was going to be placed in, but I knew whatever I'm going to end up, where I'm going to end up, I'm going to give it my very best. I'm going to make sure that I leave that place better than I found it, from the systems to the people, whatever it was. So I stayed true to that, and I went to so many interviews, and I would gauge, is this a place where my voice would, add to something, or is this a place, truthfully, I would be resourceful, Is this an environment also that allows young people like me to be resourceful? So later, I was called back to Young Rich, which is a surprise for me, but not for production. So that time I was really good at social media and what that looks like. So they asked me to join in sort of like an intern in their social media department, and I was happy to. So I took that up. I think within the first few months, COVID hit, and now, we're shutting down, we're working from home. They're like, we can't sustain your contract, so I'm sorry, this ends now. And I'm like, oh, well, it is what it is. But later, I think one of the producers quit around that time, and they asked me, would you be willing to learn how to produce a show? Because at that point, I was really very invested in whatever we were doing at Young Rich. I would watch their shows and ask a lot of questions. So they gave me the opportunity to start working with them as a production assistant. And that was huge for me. But remember, I have no background whatsoever in film production. So I remember my first show was Foods of Kenya, which is on KTN. And the first show I went on set to produce, the first 2 episodes were my worst episodes ever. I do not recommend you to watch. So we went to shoot this show, and I didn't know what it means to be a producer. Do you just sit there and watch people do what they're doing? What do you do as a producer? And I didn't have anyone to sort of like teach me or train me. So we came back to Nairobi, and the editors are looking at the footage, and they're like, what is this? There's no sense of direction in this footage. So the CEO asks, asked for a report as to why those episodes are particularly that bad. They've never seen episodes that bad.
Oh no.
So now I'm feeling terrible because I'm supposed to be a producer.
Yeah.
And my first trip, I delivered nothing. So then I bought this A4 book and I said, this is going to be my university for film. I sat down with the drivers, I sat down with the sound recorders, I sat down with the camera operators, I sat down with the editors, our admin, from our secretaries to everybody who is involved in production. And I got to understand what production is from everyone's perspective.
Yeah.
What do they do? What are their challenges? What are their joys in production? What do they expect a producer to do? What do they expect the different roles in production to do? So now I made it a point to learn on the ground aggressively and watch as much content as I possibly can around film production. So then on my next trip, I started now really understanding what it means to be a producer. Then I slowly started improving the quality of our shows by introducing new things and new ways of doing things. So now there's this like breath of fresh air around our shows. And everyone's wondering, hey, where did you study film from? And I'm like, I studied it here with you guys.
Yeah.
But now I remember I kept true to what I wanted. I wanted to be resourceful in everything I do. So whatever show I touched, I wanted to make it better. So every show that was passed my way, I would take time, analyze it, check the different elements of the show, speak to the different participants of the show, and immediately I would introduce new things, improve small things that would just improve the show in one or another. Could be from a production perspective, a finance perspective, whatever it was. I just made sure everything I touched had to improve. Then slowly Eugene started taking me for meetings with clients and just get to understand what it means to sort of take in corporate briefs and what does it mean to also manage our clients and that whole area. So one of my strengths is pitching to clients and speaking to people. I love speaking to people. So then he didn't take me to many more meetings because he realized that was one of my really big strengths. So we would pitch to clients and they'd come back and we would get business. And now it became like, okay, we got this. So then slowly moved from production assistant to production manager. And the first celebrity reality show that came our way when I was in Young Rich was Soul Family with Santi Soul, which was huge.
It really, really was.
First of all, these are people you watch on TV and you adore. So in my head, I'm like, I'm going to be telling BN to like sit down and do an interview and tell him what to do and where to be. You must be crazy. I can't. I'm scared of these people.
Yeah.
So my first day on set with the boys, I was so scared. I'm like, I can't tell them what to do. I don't know. I'm so small. I'm like 21 or 22. I don't even know. Like, would they even listen to me? But then, hey, you are scared, but you do it, you know, until I struck a really good relationship with the boys. And it made storytelling very different because we sort of found a way to, not we, but I sort of found a way of managing our cast members, the boys in this case, but in a way where there was a balance between friendship and being their boss and being a producer and still managing my team. And that was my first celebrity reality show. Then went ahead to do many more. So pretty much it's been rolling with the punches from way back.
Yeah.
For me. Yeah.
First of all, I knew about like the whole producer quitting, but I didn't know like Yani Young Rich was for you to the point that life God orchestrated it in a way that you're gonna meet Mwaniki in Kisumu.
Yeah, that's
of
how we
all
met.
places.
Yes.
You didn't meet him at a job. No, I thought you like went for an interview and that. No, like Mwaniki saw this light in you, this amazingness that I keep talking about, this powerhouse in this young girl. Because at the time you're how old?
At the time I was like 17 maybe.
Look at that.
16, I don't know.
And he's like, I want you to work for me. You know, actually I feel like that's how he said it.
It's like,
yeah.
I need your number. Take my number.
Mm.
Yeah.
And like that's amazing because I mean I know Moniki is like very social and this and that, but I know he doesn't tell everybody that.
Yeah.
I'm sure. So that means a lot. I don't know if you realize it.
Yeah.
So you told us how your dad just said take a pause on aviation, go to uni fast, nini. So I'm really wondering, how did your family, your father, take this shift in career when you decided to get into production? You decided to be a creative. What were the reactions like?
My mom from a long time ago knew I would end up in media in one or another because she would always say I'm very well spoken. I know how to analyze and package messages. So she wasn't surprised. But my father, on the other hand, was like, what? My mom would tune in to watch all my shows. It didn't matter. Like those 2 episodes that I produced that I didn't like, she watched them and she's like, don't worry, you'll be fine. You'll do well, just keep learning. So my mom was very supportive from the get-go. My dad, not very much. He didn't understand what is that you're doing, You should be looking for a government job or something. I don't know. But then eventually, my dad actually came to find out what I do and understood it really well, like a few months ago. Not more than 4 months ago.
A few years later.
Years later, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So at the start, it was more about, I think they were okay with, they really saw that I was fighting for me and nothing else. And that they couldn't stop me. It was more, okay, is this what you really want to do? Okay, sure, go ahead.
In all of this, you've talked about how you moved from doing the social media to becoming a producer, right?
Yeah.
But you know how just like you've said, now you're leading the department, you're head of production, which is a huge deal.
Yeah.
Especially when you say like the first 2 pieces of content, everyone was like, what is this? You know what I mean? That's not an easy feat. And it's not been that long.
Yeah.
People can think it's been like 10 years. And it's been like, what, 3?
This is now my 3rd year.
It's been 3 years
of
you working in production.
Yeah.
And you're head of production. And you're doing international shows, you're doing local shows. You know what I mean? Like it's not a tiny little thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you cognizant of this?
I don't even know how to answer that. I feel like by the time the company was asking me to step up to this role of head of production, there was so much self-work that I was doing, I had gotten to a point where I kept assessing myself and pushing myself and seeing, okay, how much more can I do? How farther can I go? I really wanted to really maximize the use of my voice in that company. And I had seen it change things. I had experienced what it means to lead a team and to lead a team and they're happy or they're satisfied or they appreciate your leadership. I wanted to like really push and see how far can I go. And then also it's the people around me. I mean, have you seen Eugene Bogwa? He never stops. So there's also the aspect that I was surrounded by people who are also pushing themselves further. So I was like, okay, I can't sleep on myself as well. So I could produce, like at that point, I would run point on all our shows. Even without the title head of production, I would know where all our shows stood. I would know how to go about any corporate gig from start to end. So I sort of had gotten to a point where I was looking forward to a bigger challenge, And just one afternoon, Mr. Moniki and Eugene called me and they gave me a book, Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. And they were like, do you know who Sheryl Sandberg is? And I'm like, no, but the name sounds familiar. And they're like, you need to read this book. So I read the book Lean In. I don't know if you've read it. You need to. It's an absolutely beautiful book. And it opened my eyes to all the layers of leadership that go into being a certain type of leader, right? So like Sheryl Sandberg was the CEO of Facebook. And Nani, what's the name? The founder of Facebook?
Mark Zuckerberg.
Yes. So she was sort of like his right-hand person. And she talks about the pains and the joys of leadership, especially as a woman.
Yeah.
And all those tendencies we have as women, first to be too modest about our achievements, to being too scared to bring about change because you're not sure if people are going to like you or not. And that book really opened my eyes to, okay, fine. This duties I have to manage our productions, but there's so much more I can do. I'm in a position of power. I'm in a position where I can speak more. I can use my voice to create new systems around our production house, to create systems where people feel appreciated, to work hand in hand with the rest of the management to just improve the conditions of how we work.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, is it something I can do? And by the time they were offering me this position, I had already gotten to that point in my life where I wanted a new challenge. So then it presented itself at a point where I also needed it.
Yeah.
And then I started my role as head of production, which is much more rigorous. So it's not easy. Every day I feel like there are new challenges. It's a whole new ball game.
You'd worked your emotions, your mindset, and everything up to that point.
Yeah.
But did you still face imposter syndrome?
Always.
Yeah. What's imposter syndrome been like for you in this space? Outside of the meeting, the initial meeting in ABN and being like, okay, guy, I've been looking up to this. So these guys were making music when I was in high school, and you're telling me to tell them what.
Yeah.
Other than that, like, how has it been? Like, even walking into board meetings and trying to pitch, what has that been like for you?
It's been hectic. Like, it hits you on the days you don't need the imposter syndrome, man. Different things, honestly. At the start was, am I really going to be able to step up as a leader in that capacity? You know, there's certain decisions I have to make, and am I going to make the right decisions? And also I've seen my senior Eugene do so much more, and he's so much more knowledgeable in certain things. Am I able to step up to that extent? Will people even listen to my voice when I speak about certain things? And also, I'm such a perfectionist, so then will the people under me also understand how I work or the systems that I introduce? A lot of things, honestly. There are days you have big meetings and you prepared to your very best, and that day you feel like, I'm not ready. I don't think I can stand in front of these people or speak in front of these people. They're industry leaders here and there. So there are days that comes and it happens. And even the days that you have to make tough decisions as a leader, those days even hit hardest because you're not such a nice person in some situations, but you still have to believe that there's a reason you're serving in that position. So it's affected me in several situations, but I feel like I had to get real with myself and be okay with feeling certain feelings, but not allowing myself to wallow in it. It's okay, let's feel like this right now, but we're still going to do whatever we are supposed to do.
Yeah.
Because there are certain positions you serve in. Actually, I don't think it's certain positions. I think in general in life, there are certain places you want to get to. You can't allow your feelings to get in the way. You have to push through even on the hard days, even on the days you don't feel like you make the cut.
Yeah.
So for me, it was even on the days I don't feel like I make the cut, I will show up.
Yeah.
Even the days I feel like maybe this decision is not going to be the best, but I need to make a decision, I will make a decision. If I need to show up somewhere, even it doesn't matter how I feel, I'm going to show up and deliver.
I think that's so affirming. I don't know if it's just for me or even you guys. I think it's important to do things regardless, to do it afraid, to do it despite. Because if you don't do it, then what happens?
No one will come to push you to do it.
No, that's the thing. There's nobody coming to force you to do anything in this life.
No one's coming to tell you we believe in. Okay, people will come and say they believe in you later, but it has to first start with you.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It really, really does. And I know it's not the easiest thing to do, but like you just have to.
Yeah.
there's no other way to go about it, unfortunately, for all of us.
And I feel like in that time is also where I learned the most, because then I was now hungry to hear what other leaders are going through. I was studying a lot of top leaders, their routines. What do they do? What's what do they like doing? Which spaces are they in? Who are their friends? So then you'd find me listening to podcasts. You'd find me early in the morning in the gym at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. Like I assumed, I looked at the people I look up to, and I said, okay, if these people showed up in a certain way, I want to try showing up in that way and see, okay, if they overcame whatever they say they overcame, can I try? Can I give it a shot? So then I also said, okay, if I want to show up as head of production, I need to see how do certain leaders show up in that capacity, and how can I prepare myself to serve in that capacity. So I had to shift how I think, how I feel, how I move, how I talk, everything.
What are like two big things that you learned in that season that just replay in your mind often, even now?
Yeah. That I'm in control. So, I'm in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
I always remind myself that. So it makes it even easier for me to make decisions, because I know I'm responsible for those decisions, whether good or bad. And two, everything I go through is genuinely preparing me for that version of me I yearn for. So, for example, let's say if I want to be a CEO one day, it means today if I go through a really difficult situation in the office professionally, and I'm going to feel terrible going through it, but at the end, it's going to prepare me for certain situations in future in that role. And I need to be okay with it. There's certain situations I went through as a production assistant, like producing terrible shows, that now as a head of production, I know the importance of me training and mentoring the people in my team so that they don't have to go through what I went through. So you see, it just goes back to whatever I'm going through now, it's preparation for a better version of me that's coming soon. Yeah. So those two things are key for me.
What I'm wondering in this season also, and maybe even now actually, what sacrifices have you had to make? What sacrifices do you have to make to climb up the ranks? What sacrifices are you making right now? And then also considering how young you are. I don't know if you want to say your age or not, but she's pretty young, guys. But yeah, considering also your age and what everybody else your age has the time for. What things have you had to be like, okay, this is not for me this season, or this is for later, or I guess I'll just never have to experience this?
I mean, I'm 26 now. I say because when I was starting out at 23, I was looking for people to hold my hand, and I didn't have that. So I don't even hide my age anymore. I'm just like, this is it. Sacrifices, man. You have to sacrifice comfort. Like, there's so many mornings I wake up at 4:30 and I'm like, I just want to sleep. But I'm like, no, that's going to mess up a routine I worked so hard to create. So I feel like sacrifice makes it feel like you're so sad about it.
Okay, what are things that would have been nice, but I guess
would be nice,
maybe not right now?
Sacrifice. Let me think.
Okay, remove the sacrifice. No, this would be nice if I was able to.
That's a really difficult one for me. I think, okay, maybe, I'm not sure if it'd be answering you correctly, but so both my parents are police officers, and growing up in that environment, my parents sort of instilled that, you have to do things a certain type of way, you have to finish school, get a job, So I didn't have the freedom of, dilly-dallying and sort of trying out
many things before you sort of like land where you want, So even when maybe like I was going through changes where now I realize, I can't do aviation, I have to think fast, what else can I do? So I feel like my life has always been moving so fast. I've not had like downtime to sort of wander and travel, and I don't know, like I feel like that's the only thing I feel like maybe I kind of missed out on. of having time to sort of wonder and discover. For me, I've always been, I move fast, and I don't know where that came from, but because even in my day-to-day, I'm very decisive. People in the office will tell me, Carol, you can make a decision as quickly as I can. Because now, from the get-go, from shifting career to my mind, I'm fast at making decisions because I'm moving fast. So I think that comfort and freedom of slowing down and wondering, and I didn't have that. Yeah.
Have you ever, in your leadership journey, have you ever struggled to lead some people? Like, have you had moments where someone is like, either, this baby is so young and she's trying to tell me to do what, or, oh, this is a woman, or just moments where someone is like so opposed to your leadership, and how have you dealt with that?
A funny thing is, in all the teams I've worked on, no one has ever been like difficult because of my age. I think because I don't present myself, it's not something I go even shouting, I'm 20 something and you are that, I don't know. It's never been like a big factor for me. I feel like the qualities that are presented to them, or like how I present my work and how I plan the project, people feel they can trust in my leadership, they can trust in the decisions that I make. So my age has rarely come up. Later is when people are like, wait, what? How old are you again? You're so good at what you do. And I appreciate that. But it's never been, particularly at DNR, I've never met difficult people. Of course, it doesn't mean that entirely there's one or two people who won't talk a certain type of way about my age, but it's never been a hindrance towards me delivering my work or leading a team. I feel like it's been okay. Maybe on leading a team is not easy. It's not easy because you're dealing with so many different personalities, different backgrounds. They're also experiencing life every day in different ways. And I think that's one of the areas of my life I feel like I'm constantly learning. Like, there are days I have to make very difficult decisions around people and their lives. And I'm constantly just finding and researching and learning ways. How do I lead people so that they also show up as the best versions of themselves? And how do I also get okay with making the difficult decisions but still achieve the desired results? But leading teams is, I never understood why people make a big deal out of leadership until I got there. Because now I understand what it really means to lead people.
What does it really mean to lead people?
Oh man, you get tried and tested every day, and you feel like you'll meet the most amazing people, and you'll also meet the most difficult people. You'll meet people who are zealous about their job, and they want to learn, and they want to grow, and they hold your hand, and you guys make a great team. But you'll also meet people who have potential, and it's your job to sort of get it out of them and mentor and hold their hand through them. And sometimes it's not easy. And sometimes you'll just genuinely meet people who would care less about what your leadership role is. They have their own version of what their role is and where you come in. So it's a lot. It's also learning when to extend duty of care and when to be and when to exercise disciplinary on people. It's learning when to be a friend and when to be a boss. It's learning when to be empathetic and when to be, so tough. It's one of those things you never really get a hang of it. You're dealing with different issues every day. You're dealing with different challenges every day. So that's one of the things you constantly learn. I think I've read so many articles and books about leaders in the world, and that's the one thing people keep saying they're still learning.
It seems you have like a pretty healthy relationship with the different people who work under you, work with you. How have you been able to foster that, or how would you like advise somebody to foster that in their positions of leadership?
It's hard.
Mm.
And it's not easy. It's not easy every day. And there are probably people who maybe feel I would have handled certain situations differently. I do acknowledge that days I will, I'll come up short. But what I'm actively trying to do even now is to have one-on-ones with my team members and get to understand what their career ambitions are besides what their day-to-day duties and responsibilities are at DNR. So getting to understand, what do you truly want out of production? Where do you see yourself in the coming years, and how can I personally contribute to that? And also when I see someone is struggling with something, a lot of times I will step in and first see how they do it, then give them notes on specific pointers, not in a demeaning way, but in a way to show them it can be done and you can do it and you're doing it, you just need to improve A, B, C, D. And sometimes it also means being tough because they also need to understand, tough love doesn't just apply in other relationships, even to our professional lives, right? So there are days I have to be tough with my team, like, hey, these are our KPIs, or this is the goal we are working towards. Why isn't this moving like this? So I'm trying to make it full circle where we can have a one-on-one relationship and I get to truly understand what they care about and still maintain my authority in my space as the supervisor. And also extend a duty of care when I need to, because also life is happening to them. So even when life is moving fast, I try to slow down and get to understand. Is there a particular reason maybe they're slowing down? Is there something personal they're going through? And I need to understand. And again, you're going to also meet people who are not interested in growth. You could point it to them in black and white and they're not keen on growth. And they're going to blame everything, including you, for not growing. But that's not your job. As long as a leader, you've taken time, you've put in the work, you've given people the pointers on things you think they should improve on, and given specific examples of where you feel they need to improve, then you've done your part.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, actually.
Yeah.
This is not going to come out as a question. I feel like mentorship is a big thing for you, because even when we first met and I told you, oh, I'm interested in production in uni, the first thing you did was that notebook that you're talking about, the F4, where you literally wrote everything you're learning about production. You're like, here, read. And you gave it to me, and I think I spent like the afternoon with it, like flipping through and understanding. But even when I follow you on Instagram and I see you with the different girls and stuff like that, it seems like you're big on holding people's hands. And I'm wondering, why is that important to you?
I'm really passionate about mentorship. It's something I truly, truly hope to get into in detail and in just full circle. I didn't have anyone to hold my hand. I've had experiences where people who are above me did not extend that hand to me, and it was very difficult for me at the start. And I've also been in rooms where people have held my hand and I've gotten full support, and I know what that feels like. And I've also been with people who have supported and they're like, yo, I really needed that in different aspects. It's just, in general, I've just seen the power of what collaboration and mentorship can do. And I think it's powerful. So I'd really want to be a part of a team or a group of people who we can hold each other's hands and move. And even right now, I have such a great relationship with the production managers under me, because we agree this is our goal, and we all agree this is how we're gonna move. This is what we're gonna achieve. Let's go. If there are challenges, come. Let's talk about it. I'm not as a supervisor now, as my team lead. What challenge are you having in this production? Have you tried A, B, C, D? Okay. How would you want me? First, I asked them, how would you want me to come in? Because I also want to foster the aspect of problem solving in them first. So
which
how
is
do you
important.
see me coming in as a solution before I come in and
Yeah.
give my own version? So then we have this relationship where I sort of allow them to come up with solutions by themselves, then I'll come in and say, okay, that's a good idea. Consider adding A, B, C, D. So I feel like mentorship is very important.
Yeah.
It makes a whole lot of difference. And the only way for me to also elevate is for the people under me to also elevate.
It's true.
Yeah.
Let's take it back a little bit. You told us about your school, but we don't know, did you finish at Maseno University? Did you get your degree?
I did graduate with a
Yeah.
bachelor's degree of international relations and diplomacy with IT. I've been thinking about going back to school, but not for international relations. And even after that, I went to the University of Nairobi and took a short course on public relations. So I've always been the type, I love reading, I love studying. So I don't think that's ever going to stop. I really love reading and learning things. So.
Do you think you'd get on a plane right now and try and fly it? Like, okay, not literally right now, but like, as in, would you go back to aviation school and try it out?
I think I would go back, but not with the goal of being a commercial or airline pilot. Probably just to get my private pilot license and fly as a hobby, or, you know, just get to experience something I would have experienced years ago, but not commercially.
What are 3 big things, big wow moments, big things you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening, that you've experienced, let's say, in the last year or the last 3 years, if you feel like sharing, that you could tell us so we can like celebrate with you and join your joy?
Okay, the most recent is definitely being the producer and showrunner of The Real Houses of Nairobi. This is an international franchise. Come on, you know. I remember we were pitching for it last year, and then when we got the job, it was crazy. Like, I was the one pitching, you know. We went to Cape Town and sitting with NBC Universal face to face, sitting with producers from the other versions, hearing from guys from Beverly Hills, and hearing from the producers and directors and DOPs of Durban, Cape Town, Lagos, and sitting in one room where people understand your language, people understand your pains, and people understand your joys. That was like, whoa, that was a very beautiful moment for me.
Wow.
And even now, when seeing Kenyans take in this show that I poured my heart and my soul into, that's a big moment for me. Another big moment for me would be, I think seeing our company grow as well, DNR, because when I joined 3 years ago, we didn't have a board of directors. During COVID, we had closed down and we were literally working from Eugene's backyard. Then when we moved to AdLife Plaza and opened this beautiful office, so that was also a wow moment for me. And I think also the moment when they offered me the job as head of production was also a wow moment, because there was so much inner work I was doing. I had not been told there's a big promotion coming or there's this big title coming. No, I was just genuinely working on me. So when it was offered to me, it felt like, okay, you know what, how people say preparation meets
opportunity.
Like that was it for me. I had not been told there's this whole restructuring happening and we're looking into making you head of production. No. So those are my 3 big wow moments in the last 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think for me, while working for you, me a big wow moment. It wasn't like a big moment, like in the grand scheme of things. But I think we're driving from a shoot somewhere in a slum somewhere, and we're going to the office to drop things off and then go to bed. And just listening to you speaking, and you spoke a bit about Eugene and then a bit about yourself. And I think at that time Eugene was 30. So how old must have you been? 24, I think. And just talking about how like what your experience is watching Eugene as young as he is in this position, doing everything he's doing. But me in my head, I'm thinking, girl, props to Eugene, by the way. He's done amazing things, considering everything. But I was thinking, what about you? Even you, like you're 24, I think, at the time,
Yeah.
or 23, and you're here, you're running this. You came on set to oversee. You didn't come on set to like work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow. I think honestly, I don't think you know this, but you're a huge reason I still chose to continue pursuing production.
Wow.
Because I was like, look at her. As young as she is, as kind as she is, and she's been able to do all of these things, then even for me, it's possible. You know what I mean? Because I think I started production as soon as I turned 18, right about there.
Yeah.
And seeing that you are where you are was like, okay, there's room for me to grow. There's room for even accelerated growth, hopefully.
Yeah.
And for me, that was a huge wow moment, just listening to your stories and even just listening to how passionate you are about the company and watching it grow and the different relationships you're fostering in that time. I think that was pretty big. Now we're here. You've been ahead of production for a while now. You've been producing so many shows. You've been doing amazing for yourself in your career. Where do you think you're going? What are the career shifts you see coming ahead of you? What are some of the dreams you have for yourself, for the industry?
A lot. So having just done our first international franchise, there's a lot that has changed also for me. So career-wise, I'm now at the point where I'm trying to see how much more can I add to the industry first. Through different ways. I think I'm still figuring out what that looks like. But also, most importantly, I've interacted with now a ton more people in different spaces and industries. Now, I'm very curious to know how other industries influence how we work in production and how production influences how they work. And how can we create a synergy? I think that's where I am. So, right now, I really want to explore other industries and get to truly understand what they do. Is it medicine industry? Is it the aviation industry? Is the transport industry? I just want to get to understand. I want to get a better understanding of our economy, our markets. I want to get to understand much more about the ecosystems around production. I'm at a point where I really want to challenge the status quo. Like production is very standalone. Like this is what we do, and people can't. I don't know. There's just a way I'm trying to find and to understand how our industry and my role can synergize better in other industries. I want to truly understand the ecosystem around what we do, because what we've also learned at DNR is systems work. Create systems and systems that work. So, are we able to create systems where people can take our industry much more seriously? Are we able to have banks sit down with us and respect the industry? Are we able to shape culture and challenge norms in our industry and in other industries? I'm just in a space where now I'm questioning a lot of things as well, not just about our industry as film production, but also the industries around us.
Yeah, that's amazing, and it's really important because even for me, because I'm still working in the industry, I really do want to see us soar, and it's nice to hear that people like you in positions where like you can actively create that change also want to see us soar, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what is missing, how can we do this, okay, this is what we need to do, let's do it. And I like to hear that. And then also like all these industries like coming together and working together, because that's just how the world works. And I think sometimes we remove ourselves from that as creatives, and it's important to come back to it and just like remember that everything works in synergy with itself. I think I want to ask 3 things, but they're kind of the same question.
Okay.
So the first one is, what would you say to another leader right now? Like, what piece of either hope, encouragement, wisdom would you, or even just a nice little word to like to tell them you're doing good, would you say to a leader right now?
It's okay not to know things. It's okay to be scared. It's truly okay, honestly. Like, it's not new to you. you will figure it out one way or another, and you'll grow through whatever it is you're going through. Like, but it's going to give you a better and a stronger version of you as a leader.
Yeah.
But it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay not to know things. It's fine. Yeah, you'll be fine.
What would you tell me right now?
First, good job.
Thank you.
Yeah. First of all, good job, and don't stop. Like, there's no boundaries, and don't let anyone tell you this far. It's not possible. It's possible. Anything, any little thing, any crazy big thing you think about, it's very possible to make it happen. So, I gosh, wish I could go back to like being 21. Just push it as hard as you possibly can, and get into rooms with your head held up high, like you know everything you need to know, but still humble enough to learn. But don't be scared to get into any room. Like, you deserve to be in those rooms, even when you're going to ask, and even if you're just curious. Like, don't be scared to get into certain rooms, because actually, what we say with Eugene, it's not your job to say no to yourself. Take that and run with it. Like, in this years, run with it. Go everywhere and anywhere. Ask as many questions as possible. Don't let anyone put you in a box. Yeah.
Okay, and lastly, what would you tell, thank you for that first of all, but what would you tell somebody who's kind of in that position you're in when you are going to aviation school and deciding about school, someone who's just begun life, just about to become an adult, or has just become an adult, who's about to make a huge decision that may or may not will impact the rest of their life. Actually, there's no may or may not.
Yeah.
What would you tell them in terms of their decision making, in terms of just the future?
Yeah. That you can always start over. I could say, maybe the way I say it looks easy. I just stopped aviation and I went to university. There's a lot of starting over. There's a lot of closing chapters and going through emotions and being sad and bitter and pained. And there's also that feeling where you see your other friends are pursuing whatever that was and having to deal with your own emotions. But there's also a beauty in starting over. Like, it's okay. You can always start over. Even if you're not sure about this path you're starting, just start it. Just make sure you're constantly in motion. But when you feel like you're scared, maybe you're doubting yourself, you can always start over. It's not the end, imagine. Yeah, I think you're gonna make a lot of decisions, and it's fine. I know people say you have time, and it sounds like yeah, but it's true. You have time to make mistakes. You have time to discover yourself again. You can start over. And you'll be fine. Trust me.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Just one thing. Another wow factor for me this year was being nominated in the Women in Film Awards as Best Documentary Producer. Yeah.
Look at that. Yes, and she's award winning, and she's also nominated, and just an amazing woman all around.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.
And thank you for affirming people, for sharing with people, educating them. I think we've not heard from you much, so it's nice to hear from the person who's behind all of these voices we hear and all the spaces we see on TV.
Yeah.
Again, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Thank you for sharing with us. Guys, this was Carol. You can find her on Instagram at Lucky Carolina, and you can watch so many of the shows she's done. I will list them in the description box or in the show notes for those of you listening audibly, and you can go and check them out. I also want to say thank you for everybody who's helped this production come to be, from Florats, who helped with the flowers, David Creations, who are creative directors for this. I'd also like to thank the men behind the camera. That's Angaza Films and Dynamic Pictures. They've been so great in helping us out throughout this podcast. And I also want to thank you. for listening and for engaging. Please let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Tell us a little bit about your story, about how maybe this story has impacted you or something similar has impacted you. We all want to listen to each other. I also want to thank myself, and by that I mean you guys go follow me on Instagram at Shaa_Ciku, and please engage with all our social media profiles at stories of impact _Shaa Ciku. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Love and light. Goodbye.